we sleep and we dream.
You could look at all of these videos and reasonably assume that Burial Goods is a meme channel, or a voiceover channel, or a music channel, or even a poetry channel. And while each of these would be partially correct, I think the only accurate description would be a surrealist horror channel, even if it's not horror in the way you might expect. First, let's start where any new viewer would, the About tab. Here we find Born to Speak, Life is a Dream, Know-It-All 1991. The creator mentions in an interview that he's in his early 30s, so this is probably when he was born. I Am Eldritch Voice Man. That's pretty self-explanatory, and he does have a voice that you'd expect to echo from forgotten chasms within the earth. Then we've got 410,757,864,530 listening ears. I've got a few different ideas of what this might mean. It seems to be a reference to an old 2014 Tumblr meme with this shirt that says, "Born to Die, World is a f***, Kill 'em all 1989, I am Trash Man," that really long number, Dead Cops, which inspired an Australian producer named Vapor Plaid to post an EP of the same name to his Bandcamp the following year. The original shirt was made by a Chinese company in 2012 to capitalize off the popularity of Lana Del Rey's Born to Die, and they just put a bunch of random English words under it. Further still, I found a Reddit commenter who believes the shirt was actually a Chinese factory worker making a political statement about the Tiananmen Square massacre, which occurred in 1989, and it was made around the same time China set aside $410 billion for water infrastructure. So maybe the cops reference is saying that China was spending the money on police and not water. But it could also just be random English words and numbers under the title of a popular American song. Why Burial Goods included this sentence in the About section and what listening ears means, I'm still not sure. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe he's seen the factory worker story and it's something about holding out against oppression, but that's very much just a guess. It's editing me here later, and I realized something that I didn't think about before. This might mean that the dead are listening to the content because there's all those dead cops and that's how many people are listening. So maybe the content for the dead, I don't know, that just made sense to me, and it seems like that could be it. Anyway, back to current day me. I Want to Be the Song You Hear in Your Head. I started with the idea that this was referencing something musical, and there are a lot of songs with lyrics and titles like this, but none containing these words exactly. There is a poem with almost identical wording by Charlotte Crockett, but it's incredibly obscure. More than likely, this line just means that the ideas expressed on the channel are meant to travel with the viewer like a song stuck in their head. We Are All Just Dogs in God's Hot Car is a song by Cape Fear Butcher for their 2022 album Orb Weaver, and hearing the song, it fits the theme of the content very well. It ends by titling the channel as Fundamentally Unserious, and that's what gives it all such a unique tone, because most of the stuff here, specifically the meme-based videos, could be taken as comedy, but at the same time, not. As for those first two lines, Born to Speak and Life is a Dream, I don't think they're a reference to anything. I think they're just statements of the creator's perspective. Now we've got a good understanding of how this content is supposed to come across. Inherently unserious, yes, but also cryptic and eerie, with a feeling of esoteric mystery that creeps in everywhere the viewer looks. While the initial posts only reflect this mildly, the further we go, it continues to be perfected and practiced until this wistful confusion is so clear, it's inescapable.
Agricola was born on 13th of June in the third consulship of Gaius Caesar.
Like many of the early Burial Goods videos, the very first upload from March 31st, 2023 is just a static image with a voiceover reading a historic text. Some were like this from old Roman books, and others were quotes from things as new as Lord of the Rings, but all of them maintained the same themes. Words of high gravity and dark connotations read out over retro and slightly grainy images. None of these were made to get views, as the creator says, and even now most have under 1,000. At this point, Burial Goods wasn't making things as content as much as just making stuff that he and his friends would enjoy. But everything would change on April 19th, 2023.
Working at LGS/range. Old British guy walks in, probably in his 90s.
The 4chan green text videos are what really took off, with the first one getting over 300,000 views. This green text model is how a lot of people discovered the channel, and where it started to find its footing in aesthetics and that weird surrealism that we talked about above. In fact, you've probably seen one of these videos on your For You page, like the channel's most viewed video called You Wouldn't, which leans fully on the humor side.
I do not fear you, mother. This device is nothing more than an empty threat. You do not have a heart to dampen me, your favorite son. In fact, I challenge you. I beg of you to prove your worth. I don't believe.
Or how I first discovered the channel, the ham meme.
Ma'am, that is an 11-pound whole slab of deli ham. It has no bones, fat, or connective tissue. It is an amalgamation of the meat of several pigs.
The deli worker tells us that the ham he's selling is all of human sin combined, speaking with a tone of such heavy knowledge that you get the idea that he has seen things far darker than we could ever imagine. And then he helpfully reminds us that
We also have a lower sodium variety if you would prefer that.
as time went on, though, the green text memes strayed farther and farther from the light, and the humorous moments were dwarfed by the sheer scale of darkness. At this point, the horror part of it all starts to become clearer, and it is never made more clear than in one of the channel's first videos to break 1 million views, Grover's mad quest to kill God.
Here's your steps to heaven. Most steps of your sins, Grover. All 1,048,576 of them. You think yours is long? Wait till you've seen mine.
Grover has died, and is guided into the afterlife by Kermit the Frog, who instructs him to climb a staircase, upon which each of his sins is represented by its own step. Even if Grover reaches the top, climbing over 1 million steps and surviving the staircase turning into a slide every 7 days, he still must face judgment for his efforts that will decide his entry into heaven. However, neither God nor Kermit are aware that Grover is carrying a stolen handgun with him in order to shoot and kill God upon meeting him. He almost reaches the top of the steps in time, but finds Kermit there waiting for him, who says,
You've come a long way for your purpose, my child. But next week, let's get serious and lay a foot on every single step so you don't look like a furry blue cheater.
Then Grover got his face kicked and fell to the bottom.
Next time up that high, Grover pushes Kermit down the steps and continues toward heaven. But sadly for Grover, God never appears, choosing instead to give him a new fate.
God punishes Grover by flinging him out of the gates of heaven, doomed to fall down the infinite stairway while shattering every bone in his body till the end of time.
Grover will now fall forever, lost in his defeat. A children's puppet character caught up in circumstances so outrageous they are almost comical is the exact genre of horror that Burial Goods has created. It seems so outlandish that it should be funny, and yet through a serious tone of voice, grim background audio, and careful wording, it's not. It's unsettling in a way that a lot of horror media cannot be. Things changed, though. It went from reading cool historical passages to dark green texts to slightly horrifying memes, and eventually we arrive at this, which I can only describe as haunting.
I journeyed, long and walking, far beyond the place of stopping.
Where there was no more returning to the people I had known.
I saw the world forgotten, where the grass gives up on growing.
And I knew that I would never make another journey home.
Upon that fleshy plain, below the final rock outcropping.
Stretched the vast and empty desert of the bleeding thing.
Encompassing the earth to the horizon, all-consuming.
All-consuming. Crying in 1,000 voices to its desolate God King.
Desolate.
God King.
And the
Music.
of its crying, ever dead, ever dying.
Ever dying. Sent me running in a madness I can scarce compare to fear.
Not to safety, but to silence, unto my own unmaking.
And yet now, upon awaking, once again the song I hear.
I long to taste the food of the earth. I long for water quenching.
Of my thirst, nothing that remains can satisfy.
For my voice has joined the chorus, evermore, ever mourning,
Ever singing. Ever hungry. never died, never die.
God-Made Horrors Beyond Your Comprehension features imagery from the 1990 silent film Begotten, which is about a robed figure named God killing himself in the credits, disemboweling himself in a shack before Mother Earth rises from his displaced intestines and uses the corpse to impregnate herself. She will abandon the child this pregnancy produces, though, when it is born convulsing and disfigured. The poem itself is called Far Beyond a Place of Stopping by R.J. Williamson. Things like this aren't made for views. They aren't made for clickbait or algorithms or any of the garbage permeating YouTube. They are made because they need to be made. Because the cosmic dread presented isn't something new. It's not a feeling you don't recognize. Somehow, it's something you felt before, something that's always been there, flickering just out of reach in the shadows of your brain. Begging the question, what if God is just as angry and afraid as we are, and what if heaven is just as corrupted as its creation? Throughout all of these videos, Burial Goods approaches concepts of mortality, hubris, and divinity in ways that I have never seen. This idea that humans are unaware of the greatest and darkest forces of the universe, yet that ignorance does not save us from being subject to those forces. It's at once so foreign and so intrinsically mortal that it's almost impossible to describe, which is why I'm not doing a very good job of it. I think it's one of those things that if you get, and you don't need more of my words piled on top. Now I want to show you what I think is the best video on this channel. I don't just think this is a good YouTube video. I think this is one of the best pieces of media that I have ever consumed. This is I Once Saw the Face of God.
I once saw the face of God. A vast and sudden silence among the noisy heavens. That evening I dreamed I listened to one side of a conversation I should not have overheard. I do not watch the skies anymore. I do not look up.
Some nights are darker. Some are almost black, Rachel. Like tonight, it seems so dark. Scared of being alone. You know you're not alone. No. Not. What was that? It's just the dogs. No. I mean at the window. The window? Oh, the wind's blowing, that's all. I'll lower it a little. Oh, I thought I heard something. It's just the wind. It's just the wind. It's just the wind. It's just...
The speaker is almost whispering to us, as if he's had a dreadful celestial awareness thrust upon him without his consent. Not only is there a God, it doesn't seem to be a kind one. And a mortal heard a conversation in the depths of the night that he was not supposed to overhear. Not only are there things that we are unaware of, there are things that we do not want to be aware of. The video ends with audio of a woman talking about hearing strange things at night and dogs barking outside, but she excuses it, as humans always do, as just the wind. As with anything we don't understand, we ignore it, simplify it to something we can understand, or make a story to give it reason. But none of those make it go away. Burial Goods is not a monetized channel, meaning none of this is done for money. It's also a channel that supports a lot of small creators across music, poetry, and voice acting. Earlier, I mentioned RJ Williamson as the poet behind a lot of these readings, and if you Google him, you won't find anything. That's because he has never had any published work, and his poems only exist in these shadows of the internet. Like Burial Goods and a lot of the people involved in the making of these videos, he also does not do this for money. And I think that's why this channel is so unique. It doesn't make things to please an audience. It doesn't make things to fit into a genre. It just makes things that need to be made, because some people are born to speak, and life is a dream. Over the course of making this video, I talked to Burial Goods about some of his inspirations behind all of this, and looking at some of the channels, you really can see the influence. Two of the strongest are Dread Anon, who does voiceovers and f***ed up meme edits, and Solid JJ, who is more about making stories using a meme format, both of which I think we've seen a lot in what we've gone over today. But even outside of just the genre of voiceover work, he's also talked about musicians like Jack Stauberg, which, yeah, I think the similarity of unsettling content here is pretty clear. Music as a whole is intrinsic to this channel, true, but also to horror as a genre, and understanding how and where to effectively use music is really what makes a lot of this content as good as it is. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will credit the musical artists with work in any of the content shown in the description, as well as a link to the Burial Goods channel. He has a lot of great stuff that I was not able to talk about today, and is producing new uploads at an insane rate. So if you enjoy what you've seen, go and subscribe and experience some of it for yourself, as well as checking out all the artists involved. Like and subscribe here if you want more of this, and that's all I've got for you. Bye.